Okay, well that is embarrassing. I got done recording the video just for me to look over and realize that my audio was off the whole time. The audio should be on now. According to this, it is. Anyway, I'm sorry, labcoats. It's been a while since I last played and uploaded a video. But let me do a recap of what happened, especially what I've already done. Jeez. So work and school has been getting in the way, frankly, and I just haven't found any time to really hop on anything recreational for me. But I have 30 minutes now. It used to be an hour. 30 minutes ago I tried recording this, but here we are again. Now, I want to start off by showing you this display that I've created. I can't remember if I showed it in the previous video or not, but I found out a way to connect all these together, and it was a series of redstone torch elevators and spots where you can place a redstone torch to determine which pixel would light up. Well, that was built on a different device, so I'm afraid I don't have it here, but I promise you it works, but it's a huge mess. Now, what I started working on, not realizing that the audio was off, here we have our lunar clock. So how this works is that an item gets transported through this ring of hoppers. Now there are 8 different phases to the moon, which means there are 8 different resting stops that an item can transport here. And that is in here, where it leads to nothing, in here, and then copy that 7 times over, and we get this. Now how it works is that as soon as daylight springs up, then the item gets transported down. And this way, the moon phase changes as soon as the day begins. That way, it can remain accurate until the moon has left over the horizon. And obviously I can extend this daylight sensor to adjust on precisely when that happens. So we'll go ahead and do that. And that should be enough time. That should be like noonday. It will reset. Which I honestly don't know exactly when the moon actually changes, since it's always below us, but I'm sure you can compute that by just mining directly below into the void and watching it happen. But maybe it does happen at noonday. Anyway, after we did this, or I guess I did this alone, speaking to nobody, that sucked. I built this, and this was our lightning rod contraption. So how it would work is that as soon as this gets struck by lightning, it will send a redstone signal over to this copper bulb, turning it on, but also making it impossible for this to turn on again. That way this remains on. Now this other side here can just turn this off by a reset of some kind if the weather changes. And a thing I've been thinking about how it will determine what the weather is like is at noonday, is it bright outside? And if it reaches its max brightness, then it will just hit the reset. And the can be said for rainy weather too. Because during a rainstorm, I don't think it reaches max brightness on daylight sensors. It will stay either 1 or 2 below. But I could be wrong with that, and I just haven't done my research on it, which is why we test. So something I realized about this is entirely what I like to call a button switch, and there's 2 different types of button switches. There's the T flip-flop button switch, where a single button is capable of turning things on, and then a second press turns it off, and it can do that indefinitely. We used to do that by using sticky pistons and redstone torch cycles, but ever since the inclusion of the copper bulb, it has turned a T flip-flop into a single block, which I adore. This copper update, the Tricky Trials update, was exactly what we needed. But this right here does something different. You see, if I push this button, it is your on button. And whenever you press it, it will remain on until you turn the off button on. This will always turn the thing off. And these things can be useful in a circumstance where, let's say you have a button and you want that button to just only keep something on, then boom, there you go. And then you have a separate button to reset that later on if you choose. For instance, let's say a one-way door, where you push a button and it opens up the door and you walk through it and hit a tripped wire and then it closes behind you and you can't like run over the tripped wire to open it up again. There's a bunch of other uses this has, which this was kind of an accidental build because again it was just meant for a lightning rod. And I'm pretty sure that this can be minimalized even more, shrunken down, but I moved on to this, where as of that thing was a button turns something on and another button turns something off. This I was thinking it being a slider reel. Well, let's say that like this copper bulb is turned on, and if I push this button then it moves to the right and this one will be on and that one will be off. But then if I push this button it will move to the left. Now is that possible? I've been thinking about it and I first turned to these hopper chains, but these only work in one direction and not the other direction. Which is very tricky. I'm positive there is a way to do this, but I'm kind of at a blank currently. Might be one of those moments where I take a shower and can come up with it. This is about where I ended when I looked over and noticed that the audio wasn't working. So now we're fully caught up. Now you can enjoy some more time of me just being completely silent as I brainstorm the current project I'm working on. So, another thing I forgot to mention, something I ran into accidentally while working on something, is that observers don't need to line up with the thing it's observing directly, but can actually do it through a single block, like so. This is extremely useful if you're making like a room with a wall and you want the observer to not be visible, right? But let's say you want a chest like just up against the wall in this room. Well, you can just close up the whole room and put an observer behind the block next to the chest, and it will work for you. That's something I never knew, something I never tried, frankly. Yet, I accidentally ran into it with a different project, and I didn't fully recognize what happened, and I thought it only worked for that circumstance. It was a skulk sensor. And I was trying to find a good space and trying really to figure out how on earth are you supposed to gain redstone from a skulk sensor, like a calibrated skulk sensor, but like you also want it underwater so it's silent. I was like, how am I supposed to put a comparator in that? Like, am I supposed to make my redstone contraption completely underwater using just observers and all that stuff? Well, that's when I discovered that it can do it through a block. It can observe through a block. How crazy is that? A comparator can compare through a block. So that will be useful for some builds. Always great to have another option. How could it fit through builds that, let's say, you have to have like multiple things going on? Well, let's go ahead and experiment with this by creating a new item sorter. So a basic item sorter, you have a hopper. Oh, that was my T flip-flop from earlier. So you got some hoppers, you have them face him away, and then you have just the basic stream on top. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so we want items to go through here, but we want items to stay here. How can we do this? By simply by powering this hopper with the redstone torch, it will prevent items from falling down in on self since they're facing away. If they're facing away, their priority is not what's below them, but what they're facing towards. However, if they can't feed into anything towards them, then their next priority, or their secondary, is directly underneath them. And this works because since this will be powered, then everything in here cannot move. So if I'm correct, what we want is a way to store items but not immediately power them. So I'll get some redstone torches too, or redstone dust. Now we have this system. It's touching that. The original system I had was this. Which of itself, very compact, very, very compact. However, it uses a redstone repeater, and I kind of don't want to use one. This probably is fully optimized, but I just want to quickly see if there's any way to use this new knowledge for something else. Let's go ahead and move this over here. Well, I have these two facing each other. There we go. So we'll do that. Come down here. As soon as it reaches this point, it can just go straight down. Now, there is a problem with this build specifically, and that is the fact that this redstone torch not only is powering this, but powering that also. And that's not ideal, frankly. So a good method to avoid this is actually by using a combination of barrels or chests and doing it like this. This means, though, that you need to direct that directly into wherever it's leading. So now let's get some redstone dust, fill this up, and you'll see as soon as we hit 18 on this end right here after filling these up with one piece, then it should turn off the redstone torch, but obviously it's not because I forgot a whole different step. Let's see here. Man, I can't even remember how this works. So we need that there. Okay, now I'm remembering. There we go. See, now it works. And now the item should have dropped through. It will stay stuck here because this turns off for such a short period of time that it's able to go right through. And we don't want this to be any different, otherwise it's just gonna get stuck in its place. But let's go ahead and try it with this. You see, this way we can actually get it lower. Oh, I see. So we could probably use a transparent block right here. And that gets like our redstone just quickly over on this end. But yet we want that to be powering this, which could work with that. With that being said, we're going to need to power that. That right there, all it will do is as soon as items go into here, then it will just power it right away and move down, which is useless entirely. Which is why we need to have a extension here. Now the problem with this idea is that it's literally just this one, but with like extra steps that I don't like. So we could do it this way, right? But as you can see, it's identical to the other side. It even uses the same amount of blocks. In fact, actually, it uses more blocks than this original design, because we get rid of this block and we just move that block up there, and it's the same way. So that is not even useful in the slightest. Surely there's a way to do this right. Let's see. So, I really want to avoid using a repeater, that specifically, because repeaters can get expensive over time. And my initial idea was to have redstone like that. And maybe something like that. But except that's powering this and this. If it powers this, then no items are going to be able to go down into them. So maybe this was just a waste of time. But I'm glad I did it anyways, just to be confident that what we do have, which is this, is probably the most optimal way to create this. Now, of course, in Java Edition, it might be different. Java Edition's redstone works very differently than Bedrock redstone. Part of the new update I've noticed is the hitbox of a nether portal frame is no longer the size of a block, but instead is the size of what the purple frame actually looks like. And I watched a video of someone getting very upset because, well, they use that for farms and stuff, to optimize farms to get like a whole lot of slime, because slimes would spawn, and because of their large hitbox, they would just instantly hit the hitbox of the nether portal and get transported to the nether, where using a chunk loader, they just die instantly and build up slime balls. In Java Edition, or in Bedrock Edition, I honestly don't know if we had that privilege. I myself have never seen that being used, though odds are could have definitely happened because it seems so simple. But I'm going to quickly see if in Bedrock Edition we got that change also. I can't even remember if that change existed. It looks like no, it's still a full block sized in Bedrock Edition still. I can't even remember if it was always like that though. So here, for instance, I am up against this block right now. By the way, this is the worst biome ever. I hate the magma cubes inside here. But if I just simply move to the left, then I enter right away. And you can see the outline, it's a full block. Okay. Another thing, and this was Java only that I saw from the new update, are piglins. Zombie piglins, specifically. Now, in Bedrock Edition, these are zoglins, not piglins. Where are my zombie piglins? There they are. Let me use a quick sword to get rid of these guys. So in Bedrock Edition, this has always been the case, always. If you were to punch a zombie piglin, then it would get aggroed towards you. It's obviously not aggroed towards me because I'm in creative mode. And just like every other mob, when you kill it, it drops XP. And every mob also has a timer of when it will no longer drop XP after getting hit. So for instance, if I hit this mob, just like that, then it has like this cooldown timer where if it dies to anything else via like explosion, drowning, like death traps, then it will drop XP until that timer is over, and then if it dies, then it just will only drop the items and not the XP. Now, if there are multiple zombie pigmen everywhere, and you were to hit one, then all of them will get aggro and try to chase after you, right? In Bedrock Edition, it has always been the case where you had to kill each piglin yourself to get the XP. Or wait until that cooldown timer, right? Well, apparently in Java Edition, I never knew this because I don't play Java. I never really had a computer to play Java, and even now, I don't have any friends who play Java, so I always play on Bedrock so everyone can join me. But in Java Edition, if you hit a piglin and there's multiple around them, then they all get aggroed, and during their aggression state, they will drop XP. Which means you could hit one zombie piglin and a swarm gets aggressive and they will die, like during their aggression, they will drop XP. So let's say you do like /command kill all entities after punching a single piglin, then the whole place will just explode in XP. Now, what people did was exploit that oversight and created huge farms where they will like farm pigmen by hitting one, and then all of them are attracted to the player, and they will swarm into this like circle where they'll die by pufferfish or other means and just drop a whole ton of XP. Basically, you just sit there AFK as all these piglins are angry at you, trying to run over you, and then die instantly. Now, they are upset because this new update removed that exploit. So now you actually have to kill or punch a piglin in order to get its XP, and it has the same XP cycle as any other mob. And everyone is upset at that because it, quote-unquote, deems their farms useless. Now, I have one issue with those claims. Number one, yes, I'm sorry that it's like done that way. I'm sure that it was very convenient to have those farms. However, I believe it was kind of too convenient, where I would always be jealous. It almost looked like Java players always had, like they were able to advance faster and like get materials and XP faster always. And after playing Java for some time myself, I found all of that to be true. Their ores like generate in bigger chunks and more frequently than in Bedrock at all. Like my goodness, the amount of diamonds you can find in a single mining spree. You would get lucky to find diamonds, by the way, in any mining spree in Bedrock Edition, I swear. So here's the thing though, is that us Bedrock players have found a way to still get XP using the zombie aggression exploit, and that is simply by just luring them into a trap where they can drop XP. Now, of course, that sounds identical to what the exploit did. However, we need ways to make the game, to convince the game that it's being killed by the player. And the most popular way to do that is by using our good old Lucky Trident and making it constantly move in a circle over and over and over again. And this right here will fix the issues that these Java players are running into. Because, you see, quickly build this all around. You have a place to lure all of the piglins already. All you really need is a way to kill them to get XP. And all that requires, all that is needed, is this very simple contraption here, where you just have this loop of redstone going over and over again. This might be too fast, but we'll see. I'll go ahead and place a lever. I built this in my laboratory, by the way, so it's already going. That doesn't seem like it's bad at all, actually. You throw a trident in there and it gets pushed around. Looks like I did it all opposite on accident. That's pretty funny. Let's go ahead and flip it around real quick. So we'll do that, 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 that. And we need a redstone right there. Let's do redstone right there. Redstone right there, redstone right there. There we go, see? So since that trident is moving around, it technically is being used because it's moving. So any mobs that touch that while it's moving gets damaged. And I don't know if you guys know this, but a trident attack damage is equal to a netherite sword attack damage, which means that every single hit is just a default netherite sword constantly hitting it. This is why I hate drowns, by the way, because you could just spawn in a new world next to an ocean, and a drown with a trident can just like appear from the water when you least expect it, and basically have a netherite sword that they can throw at you. Like, holy crap. It's so annoying, but makes for a really good use here. So put this at the bottom of your donut farms. Gather all the piglins, like just punch once so that they get aggressive and try to chase you down. Fall into this trap and let that trident finish them all off, and you will have a whole lot of XP waiting for you at the bottom there. Like a ton of XP. And by the way, if you think that this causes the durability to go down in a trident, the durability only goes down after its initial throw. So that throw right there brings the durability down by 1. And you would think, oh, then it will disappear over time, right? However, since it's an owned object by the player, it will not disappear, unlike arrows or something similar, right? It's more like a lead, how it just stays there and will always loop in this direction. And if chance, by Java Edition, the trident can disappear, then simply create a mechanism where you can go down and pick it up over a certain amount of time and re-throw it, and just do it. This is such an easy build. And it's a build that can be controlled by simply having a piston here. Move this block up and down. And then having a single redstone line just send it through. So simple. Let's go ahead and I'm saying it's so simple yet here am I. I can do this by, that's the wrong way actually. All this doesn't need to be here. There you go. Now it's on. Flick that off. Now it's off. Easy. Easy fix to that problem. So far, those have been the only like downsides and like people are angry at in the game so far. But all of it still has its like fixes anyway. So I hope that this is useful for you lab coats out there. I'm gonna call it end here. I have to leave in 4 minutes. But I guess there's nothing else really to say. You guys have a good rest of your day. Remember, learn how to use redstone. Don't follow how to use redstone. Alright, goodbye, y'all.